So as you can see, we got this picture where she's kind of biting on this pearl necklace, and we're just gonna go in and we're gonna take all of these little specks away. We're gonna lighten the teeth, we're gonna whiten the teeth, and I'm gonna show you how I retain my texture within the teeth. So first things first, I always want to duplicate my image, and very simply what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my clone stamp. I have my opacity at 100, flow at 100, and I'm just gonna test first to see what it'll look like when I put it over it. Right? And as you can see, boom, we removed the spot. Now, what you want to do with this, and this is universal when it comes to clone stamping, you want to try to clone stamp as close as possible to the area that you want to replace, right? Now, for those that don't know what clone stamping is, basically what it does is it takes a sample of pixels from one area and it will clone it to another area. So for example, if I wanted to clone this area and bring it over here, as you can see, I can do that. So all you're doing is you're replacing the bad or unwanted areas of your image with another area of the image. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go around the tooth, and as you can see, she does have some like residue from the lip gloss here where it's kind of pink. And we're gonna clone stamp that as well, but we're not gonna do it the same way that we're doing it here. So let me go ahead and fast forward through this because it's basically just the same exact process the whole way. And I'll come back, and when I come back, I'll show you how I remove this bit of residue right here. I'm gonna outline it just so you guys can get a different color. I'm gonna show you how I remove like this residue, you know, these bits of residue that kind of got stuck to her teeth from the lipstick. Right, so when I come back, that's what we'll do. Now here, what you're gonna see me do is I'm gonna take this seam right here. Not Command C. What you're gonna see me do here is I'm gonna take this seam and I'm just gonna clone stamp it, because I want it to go all the way down. I don't want it to look like she doesn't have a separation between her teeth. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be perfect. You know, you got to kind of use your discretion based on the job that you're doing and your client and exactly what their needs are. But even though this is for a lip kit, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. So you just want to kind of get them to a rough state like this. And so far, that's pretty good. So what I want to do next is I want to come up to my frequency separation, right? Inside of my Pro retouching pack, I'm going to go to my advanced frequency separation, and I'm just going to keep it at 14 pixels. I'm going to go to my high layer, which basically my high layer will allow me to retain as much texture as possible. So I'm just gonna take my clone stamp. I got the hardness at 0, and I'm just gonna kind of go over these areas where the residue is while sampling from other areas, right? And I'm gonna go over these like deep yellow areas as well with this clone stamp. And as you can see, it's not really taking out too much texture. Now you do have to be careful, because what you want are these little highlights right here. So you don't want to take those out, because then your tooth will look flat and it'll look like a chiclet, and we don't want that. So you want to go over them, but you don't want to overdo it, if that makes sense. All right, here we got a little bit more like spit bubbles, or saliva bubbles, I should say. Let me say saliva. And I just want to go in and kind of clean those up. Right here we have this big like yellow spot. I'm gonna go over that. I'm gonna go over that area. I'm gonna go over some of these areas where the tooth looks really rough. And I'm gonna kind of clone stamp. Right? So we pretty much got all the residue off. As you can see, we still have all of the texture of our teeth, but we're going in phases. So, you know, we're taking things off little by little. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to go to this whiten teeth action. Now, there's 2 actions that I have. There's one that's, well, they're both for eyes and teeth. However, you'll see the difference between the both of them when I do it now. So I'm gonna go into this action, and basically this one is more so just a hue saturation. And what this one is gonna do is it's gonna allow me to take a lot of this yellow out, but it's still gonna kind of keep a small amount of hue in the teeth. So you want to just select the white brush, right? Make sure it's white. You want to make sure that you're selecting your masks. And I'm just gonna kind of go over the teeth. Now you do kind of want to be careful with this, because it's a hue saturation. It will take the saturation out of things that are surrounding the teeth as well. So the gums, if I go over the gums, it'll take some of the color out, right? And also look at this right here in this reflection. I want to even do that, because we're trying to get everything. We want to make sure we're detailed, right? So as I'm going over these, I'm just being, you know, kind of careful that I don't go onto the gums. You know, it's not too big of a deal. All these reflections that have the yellow in them, I want to go over them. Boom. Look at that. As you can see, it'll take off all that yellow. All the coffee stains, all the age, everything. All right, now I'm coming here and do the same exact thing. Boom. And as you can see, you're still retaining texture, which is the most important thing when it comes to teeth, because I don't think a lot of people really pay attention to the fact that teeth have texture as well. The same way that skin has texture, teeth has texture too. So we're coming in. I'm just gonna decrease my brush size so that I'm not spilling over too much. Right, and we just keep going like that the whole way. And as you can see, I'm going like fast. I'm not, you can be as detailed as you want, but the heat saturation is not super aggressive. So even if you bleed over a little bit off of the tooth, it's not gonna be, that big of a deal. So now we have the tooth to this point to where you can see we removed our red spots. We removed some of that, build up and gunk that was on the teeth. And then we removed the color, the yellowness from the teeth, right? So now you're at a stage where the teeth, honestly, this looks natural. But we can take it a step further and we can now go to this eyes and teeth whitening action, and this is gonna actually whiten the teeth. So I'm gonna scroll down to photo filter 1, make sure I have that mask selected, make sure that my brush is white, still at 100, still 100%, still at 100% opacity, but 0% hardness. And I'm now just gonna go over the teeth again. Now, when it comes to this action, you have to be a bit more careful when it comes to bleeding over, because this action is like a bleach. It's like a whitener. The other one we used to slightly desaturate. This one we're using to whiten and brighten. So I'm just gonna take my time. And I'm gonna go over the teeth. And as you can see, the reason why I love this action is because it does not remove the texture from the teeth. As you can see, they are extremely white, but it doesn't make the teeth look fake. And when we're finished with this, you'll see what I do to either tone it down or get more realistic look. Now also, you want to be very careful with this stage, because if you do bleed over, kind of like how I just bled over onto the lip a little bit, make sure that you go back and clean it up, because those are signs that a retoucher was there. And as a retoucher, that's not what you want. You want it to look like that's the person's natural teeth. You don't want people to suspect that, oh, this picture is edited. So always make sure you go back and you clean up those little edges if you go over. And you can see I'm just taking my time and going. Guys, retouching is one of those things where it's just gonna take time. Honestly, it's just gonna take time. You're gonna have to spend the time. But as a photographer, this is just a part of what comes with the job. Either you love it or you hate it. But I've learned that sometimes you have to love the things that you hate in order to be successful at them. I knew that retouching was one of my weak points, so I spent a lot of time experimenting, learning, a lot of trial and error, just trying to really master retouching. And that's why I'm able to teach you. So right here, we're almost done. All right, I'm just gonna get the last few specks. And as you can see, I'm doing this live. Like, this is not me retouching and editing and then going back and taking out any mistakes that I make. This is live. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna kind of clean up the edge of this because I did kind of bleed over a little bit. Oops. And then on the edge right here, kind of just. Yeah. All right. So now we have the teeth at this stage, right? And the reason I use this picture in particular is because you have something to compare it to. So these pearls are not exactly white. They're like an ivory. But in most people's eyes, they know pearls as white. So what I want to do is bring the color of her teeth a bit closer to the color of the pearls. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna close my group for the eyes and teeth whitening action, and I'm gonna come to opacity, and I'm just gonna lower it a bit, not 45, maybe like 60%. And as you can see, now we have teeth that look extremely natural. So if I go ahead and group everything to where we can see the before and after, extreme difference, and her teeth look beautiful.